Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV2. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Scott Brown and Stuart Armstrong have been ruled out of the Scotland squad. Kenny Miller is out of the Rangers team, but will the manager be next? Manchester City's Sergio Aguero involved in a car crash. Yeah, just a few of the talking points. Friday night, as ever, we'll be looking ahead to a weekend of football across all four divisions in Scotland, and we'll also cast our eye over the Premier League in England as well. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and as ever, Hugh MacDonald takes his place in the Friday night chair. So let's have a look at the back pages to see what's been happening this morning. Pedro sends Kenny to play with the kids at Rangers, and he's out of the match against Hamilton Accies. No smoke without fire there. And also Neil Lennon, I won't cheer if we beat Celtic. And also Barry Ferguson, one of our pundits, saying Kashinya is doing a PLG. Paul Le Guen. We'll discuss that shortly. What about the Sun? Hold on a second. Craig warns Bayern we want runners-up position, and also no celebration if we win, says Neil Lennon. And the Daily Mail, as you can see, it's another must-win game. And just a sidebar there saying that Celtic are sweating on Scott Brown, and so are Scotland as well. Well, the big news is that Scott Brown and Stuart Armstrong are out of the Celtic side and out of the double-header for Scotland. This is what Brendan Rodgers had to say about it today.
Well, he's obviously had a scan, so him and Stuart Armstrong will be obviously not available for a few weeks. So it's unfortunate, but the just slight strains of their calves and hamstring, top of the hamstring. So it's unfortunate for both, unfortunate for us and obviously for Scotland.
Massive blow for Scotland, Ruffy.
Yeah, it's massive. I'm sure Gordon Strachan will be particularly worried about that situation. I think we don't have another Scott Brown. I think the nearest is probably Dan Fletcher. You know, to play that sort of a holding role and make passes. We saw the energy that Armstrong's brought to the team, and it's two massive players, and as you said, it's a massive headache, and obviously Gordon's got to try and sort it out.
Yeah, and again, the strange thing about it is you look at Armstrong and you think he's almost like an ever-present in your mind now, and he's only got a couple of caps, but him and the combative nature of Brown, as well as I think the underrated aspect of Scott Brown as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's happened is what we forget is the immediate impact of Armstrong. Once he came into the team, I think Gordon Strachan described his debut as the best Scotland debut ever. People can argue with that in precision, but they can't argue that it was a very impressive debut, and he's done well for Scotland ever since. I mean, he had that mistake against England when he gave the ball away calamitously with almost the last kick of the ball, but apart from that, he's been very energetic, very central to what Gordon wants to do. And Scott Brown has been excellent since he came back from retirement. Yeah, so two big blows. Yes, we're okay in the midfield area. I think we have got a strong midfield pool to choose from, but those are two players that you just wouldn't want to go without.
Yeah, OK. You can give us your view on that at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. From the blow for Scotland to yet another back page headline involving Rangers. Obviously, it's been going on for a couple of days now. I suggested it to you a couple of days ago as well, Ruffy, about Kenny Miller in the middle of this storm as well. So he's out of the Hamilton Accies game. The game will be kicking off in the next few minutes. But the bigger picture here is every game now seems to be the must-win. I think the manager is slowly but surely trying to... It looks to me as if it's replicating the Paul Le Guen situation from all those years ago.
Yeah, well, it's certainly... the biggest thing he always comes away with, whether it's players or other teams or whatever, is respect. And I think he obviously doesn't think that certain players in the dressing room are also showing him respect. And we obviously saw the story in the papers there that he wasn't happy about, and now... reading between the lines, it looks as if Kenny Miller's been identified as the person who's talking to whoever, and he's obviously acted very, very quickly on that. But you're right, every time he goes into an interview and whatever he comes out with, just everybody's shaking their head and wondering what he's talking about. And so you're right, every game he plays now is going to be crucial for him, and tonight it starts.
Yeah, the other thing about it, Hugh, and you can look back, you could go back 2-3 decades, and history repeats itself. When Rangers were a successful side, it didn't matter what happened. At Celtic, there was leaks in the background, there was talk of unrest, there was, players here and there speaking to anyone who would listen to them. And they weren't winning games. That was the key. And the calibre of player they were buying wasn't good enough. Suddenly, 3 decades on, here we are again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing is all predicated on not winning games. One of the statistic that kills Kushinya is he's not won 3 games in a row. That just kills you as a Rangers manager. Everything else is consequent to that. Because if people are going to journalists and warning about, say, for example, Brendan Rodgers' training regimes, people go, what the hell? He's winning every week. When you've got situations, who knows, maybe Brendan Rodgers had a meltdown, a really strong meltdown in the middle of the Paris Saint-Germain game. I don't know if he did, but say he did, it doesn't get out of the dressing room because there's nothing in it to get out of the dressing room. Once people have got agendas in the team, once people are looking at their futures, once that breakdown in relationships occurs, well, it's open season. I think he's in real. I mean, this is the last roll of the dice for him. I really think he's in. I think what saves him at the moment, Peter, is that the Rangers board have invested so much in him. What people forget is the Rangers team at the moment still has the refugees from the Warburton era to get rid of, the Forresters, the Hallerans, Rossiters, etc., that are completely surplus to requirement. And many people will be surplus to requirement if Pedro Kushinya goes.
Yeah, it's a bit of history repeating itself. The charade that was Mark Warburton, now he's under pressure at Nottingham Forest and has openly admitted it. But the one point here I would suggest, Ruffy, there's no real personal agenda on this, from any particular side or somebody trying to destabilise the club. It's just looking at the facts. The facts are, let's look at your team, let's see how they perform, not good enough. Let's look at the individuals that you've brought in, and not good enough. And over and above that, what's Hugh's mentioned there is it's all backed up by this constant, press conference gibberish. It's as simple as that, because what happens is, he said, Carlos Peña is the third fittest player at the club. Well, he might be the third fittest player. He's also one of the most expensive, who's not doing anything for them.
No, he hasn't really come out with anything right from the very beginning. And his press conferences have all been sort of a whatever you call it. Gobbledygook. And it's been, and I thought it was a bad move for him having the meeting on Monday, because I don't think he handled that particularly well either. I mean, when you have a meeting with your players after a big game and you sit them all in the dressing room and then you say to them, well, who's got a view on what happened at the weekend? And people are going to have certain views that he's not going to agree with. And if he's in that dressing room when it's all going on, he's clocking what players are resenting, whatever the formation or whatever they're doing. And I think it was Lee McCulloch did the right thing with the Kilmarnock players. What he did was he held a meeting, but he left the room. And you know what I mean? If he's not in the room, he can't hear what the players are saying. Well, I don't like who you picked there, or I don't like that. But he's been actually in the room at the meeting, so he's clocked there are certain individuals not happy with what he's doing.
But the classic thing is, I'm sure there's been sort of strong conversations with every other club in Scotland with managers over this season, right? I'm sure of it. I'm probably sure. I'm always certain that Brendan Rodgers has strong conversations in his dressing room. It's not been leaked to the media.
I think the other thing...
it's not in the papers.
No, absolutely. But I think the other thing about it, which, we are continually now going game by game with them. That's when you know the alarm bells are ringing.
But, of course, Peter, that goes back to the whole thing. It all goes back to... This is so simple for Rangers and Celtic. It's really simple being the Celtic and Rangers manager. You can talk about caravans barking. You can talk about beautiful persons. You can talk about anything you want, as long as you win.
Yeah. The other problem, I think, and the immediate problem after this is, you only have to look at Roy McGregor with a situation where there's been a run of games and he said he made a judgment call. There has undoubtedly been a chat among the board members to look and say, OK, have we got enough money? Who's going to salvage this? I think that conversation has almost certainly taken place.
I think there's been a lot of conversations taking place. I mean, but I think, again, in that perverse way I see it, the very fact that he spent so much money there's 5 or 6, maybe more than that, players in there on his direct command. Players I suggest who will not be too keen to stay in Glasgow after he leaves. Players I suggest that incoming managers might not be too keen to have once Caixinha departs. And that's almost working in his favour. That's why they're giving them that bit of time, because they've made so much investment. It's like if you buy something and it's really, really expensive, you're not going to bin it first time round. You're going to say, I'll give it another go. I'll give it another go. But it comes to a point where it becomes untenable. And as you say, every game's must win. Every game from now is must win, because it gathers a momentum. For example, as this month of October is coming up, he's going to have a semi-final of the Cup. No matter what happens in the interim between, if he beats every team 6-0 here between now and Motherwell, he's got to beat Motherwell.
Yep, OK. You can give us your thoughts on that. After the break, we're going to hear from Neil Lennon and Brendan Rodgers ahead of Celtic against Hibs. Can't beat me on the 80s, Ruffy. I'm practically still in it, stuck in it. Anyway, 1983 for the year there. I think David Bowie should have been a giveaway as well for yourself.
I went for 82 for some bizarre
strange reason. OK, let's concentrate on a couple of special games taking place, not only in the Premiership but the Championship, coming up in this section of the programme. First of all, Celtic against Hibernian. It's going to be an emotional time for Neil Lennon, returning to his old club in front of a sellout crowd, or even a sellout crowd. Will he be celebrating ending Celtic's 57-game unbeaten run? It's all to play for.
I think in the past they've made pretty clear what they think of me, like, you know, so I don't know. I'm expecting it would be nice, it would be warm. I hope it is anyway, for however length of time it lasts throughout the game. But like, it's a club that's, you all know, is very close to my heart and has been for a significant period of my life. My history with the club it's cast in stone, and that will never change, and I don't want it to change. I don't want to change any affection I have for the club or what the club have for me.
I have a huge regard for him. I think he's a brilliant manager. I have a lot of time for Neil, and I have a lot of respect for him. I think the job that he did here, firstly as a player, he was a fantastic player. He's one of those players that every team needs. It's not an easy job to do, but to then move from playing into becoming the manager at Celtic and having the 4 years that he did have here and the success he had was absolutely magnificent.
It's not. You're right. It's not about me. This would have happened eventually. It just happens to be this weekend, but it's not about me, you know. And we have to play Celtic again next month, and hopefully 3 other times in the league. So, look, it'll be good to go back. It'll be special, personally, but for the team, it's another game and a big game.
Yeah, lots of little cameos, as well as the main event. Neil Lennon in the Hibernian dugout, Brendan Rodgers in the Celtic dugout, of course Anthony Stokes going back to Celtic, and of course Lee Griffiths mentioning the fact that if he scores, he won't be celebrating.
I find all that strange. I'm sure that it's been reported that Neil won't be celebrating, but I'm sure he will, because in the heart of hearts, if you mine deep down into Neil Lennon, you'll find the actual word inscribed in his heart, winner. He loves winning. I think it's a very interesting homecoming. I think people at Celtic Park have more than just affection for Neil Lennon. They've got respect for him as well as a human being, a man, what he did there. He's actually, it's strange when you talk about a club as big as Celtic that's got such a history as Celtic. They'll have legends, you know, throughout their year. They've had legends since the early or the late 19th century. They've had legends, and I think Lennon's a bona fide. Neil Lennon's a bona fide Celtic legend. I mean, he's right up there with. I mean, he's right up there with anybody else. You know, there's the year of the Steens and etc. and the Billy McNeils, but Neil Lennon's still at a level where he's a legend. What he did as a player and what he did as a manager.
I was going to ask you that. Is it because of the couple together?
I think it's both because of his importance as a player. Because we saw that he was just completely integral to Martin O'Neill's side, and then as a manager, where he had fantastic achievements as a manager with a restricted budget, took them to the last 16, beat a Barcelona team as well. I mean, in modern times, an incredible achievement. But I think it goes further than that. I think the Celtic fans admire him for his bravery, for the type of abuse that man has had to endure in Scotland is beyond appeal simply. People have been sent to jail for what they've done to him. I think the Celtic players Celtic fans and Celtic culture looks upon him and says, you know what, not only was he a great captain, a great player and a great manager, but he's been a great and brave man.
On the flip side of that, Ruffy, I would suggest to you that the Hibs fans are embracing his ethos more than ever, because Hugh mentioned he's a winner. He won't want to go to Celtic Park and get humiliated. He'll want to go there and stamp his authority on it and make sure that anyone who's on the park wearing the green and white of Hibs steps up to the plate.
Oh, you can be absolutely sure that when the Hibs players leave the dressing room tomorrow, that's what the one and only focus will be, whether he's got the history with Celtic or not. When you go back to a club that you've left, and even though you've had a great time, there's nothing better than winning the game, because you go away, obviously, pleased for your own supporters and the players, but again, they would be breaking the record, and I'm sure in the scale of things, he'd be happy to do that, to be the manager, with the history. But I think we're talking about what kind of welcome will we get. He'll get a fantastic welcome, because I think we all have to look back at it was the supporters that got him the job. When he stopped playing, there was a bit of if with everybody, can he move from player to manager, he's not got any experience, blah, blah, blah. But the supporters wanted him. They made their feelings felt that Neil Lennon was the guy that they wanted to be manager of the club. Yeah,
as far as Hibs is concerned, Ruffy, you're best placed on this one because of your association with Hibernian over a long period of time. I mean, what do you make of Lennon's Hibs? Only 2 defeats in 13 games. No, I think he would be really honest that he would like his defence to be a wee bit tighter. I mean, I know it was Ross County last week, then they had the shutout there, but in the previous games, he's come out in the papers and he's been annoyed by the way that the goals that he's lost. So tomorrow, as we know, with Celtic, he'll have to be tight. The defence will have to be, pretty tight. And obviously you've got Effie Ambrose there as well, But I still think they miss the 2 centre-halves that are off. They miss them because, I think the boy McGregor's a super player. But he will go there, and the thing about it will be he'll be organised, and he'll be hoping, and we all keep saying it, will there be a reaction for the European tie? But I mean, you say that, but it never really happens, because Brendan Rodgers just rotates the team, and the players that aren't getting a game come on, and they do the exact same. But coming off a 3-0 win in Europe, I wouldn't think there would be any reaction.
Well, for a fact, 2 of the players that started on Wednesday are not going to play in Brown and Armstrong, so he's going to have renewed energy in midfield. I think Armstrong picked up an injury prior to the game. Of course he did, yeah. He played in the Rangers game. It was in Cham that played in the week, sorry. But, Brown's out, definitely. But you've got McGregor and Bitong would be the 2 automatic ones that would replace him, I think. Bitong playing the holding. McGregor coming. He might play in Cham again, you know, for McGregor, for Armstrong, but I think it's more likely to be McGregor. And then he can play about with the front three. And the great way he can play about is he can play about with Johnny Hayes. You know, Johnny Hayes, this is what Johnny Hayes was bought for, to be a utility player at this level. He can come in and play left if he wants, come in and play full-back if they want. They can bring Ralston in instead of, you know, if they want to, you know, make changes along the back.
I think he's going to have an operation as well, which might rule him out. I think they're using this period to try and get people who've got maybe niggling injuries,
get them back again.
Get them back again. The one point I would say to you on this, I'll get your thoughts on Europe just as before we hit the break, Hugh. When you look at the type of players he's looking at, I mean, Beaton's a good shout, but Cham and McGregor, I think, would be the perfect two, just to slot in that you wouldn't see any great difference, because in Cham, after he got through that 25 minutes of a nightmare, was
well, he's a £4 million player. You know, obviously we're still to see the £4 million player, but and what we've seen already, there is signs that he's a young boy who can come in and control the game, and that's what they'll need. Beaton, as Hugh said, you know, will just sit and make passes, and then McGregor gives you the energy. Just
a footnote to the European situation. Ancelotti lost his job, and of course René Weiler lost his job. There was an advantage. Brendan Rodgers pointed out to me at the press conference today, well, wait a minute, you know, I can manage the expectations as they increase, because Anderlecht had double our budget. Now you're going to another level with Bayern Munich. You know, some people I think are getting a wee bit ahead of themselves.
I agree. I think if you're talking about Bayern Munich being vulnerable, but what's the level of vulnerability? I mean, I watched them the other week. They lost a 2-goal lead to Wolfsburg. That was the first time ever in Bundesliga history that Bayern Munich had lost a 2-goal lead. So that's the strength of Bayern Munich. That's the strength of the problems that they were facing with the manager.
And Robin and Ribery were on the bench the other night there. For a 3-0 hiding. I don't know if you're aware of this, just as we go to the break, Hugh. Ruffy is one of those people getting ahead of himself, because I've bet him that if Celtic defeat Bayern Munich, I'm giving him I'm not giving him personally, but I'm taking him out to somewhere to get a massage or a facial. I don't know which one he needs more.
I'll give him the facial.
It'll be uneasy for me just giving him the massage. But nevertheless, if you've got to do it and you lose a bet, you lose a bet. OK, after the break, we're going to talk Aberdeen. We'll hear from Derek McInnes. We'll also hear from the Hearts boss, Craig Levine. So difficult to pick these, but from you, I'm so glad that we're not listening to you on these things. You know, you were so rock solid on what it was.
I could actually tell you the day. I could actually tell you the day of the London Olympics. It was the 7th of July. It was announced, because tragically it was the same day as the London bombing. So obviously, while I can tell you the day, I can't tell you the year. Which kind of sums up my life, actually.
Well, the other thing about it is it sent our producers into a spiral of worry, just in case you were.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. OK, 2005. There are people, Ruffy, you know, who can actually name the year based on a Harry Potter movie. But there's not a catch chance that either of us, I would suggest, could do that on any of those movies.
No, not in the Harry Potter ones. I remember when the books came out, but not when the actual film started.
You remember when the
books came out?
This is a shocking.
No, let me finish. No, let me. I never read the Harry Potter. My wife used to read the books to Lucy in her bed, so that's
right. And do you remember? So you remember when the books came out? What the year they came out, or do you just remember that they were being read to your daughter?
Roughly when they came out. I don't know what the difference was before they started making them into films. That's what I'm saying.
Right, OK. And I must apologise to everyone for wasting the last 60 seconds of your life there. You'll never ever get that back. It's gone. Let's talk about Aberdeen against St Johnstone. Another blow for Aberdeen. Greg Tansey's out for 4 weeks with a hernia.
Yep, which makes last week's victory all the more important because Aberdeen were in a sticky wee run, a couple of draws, a draw at home against Kilmarnock, knocked out the League Cup. It was a sticky wee time. We're not talking full-blown Klaxon alert crisis, but sticky enough. So that win last week was very important to Aberdeen, judging by the celebrations. The players knew that, and I'm certain that Derek McInnes knows it. And they go tomorrow as well against their perennial kind of, I wouldn't say nemesis, but a side that always gives them problems, St Johnstone at Pittodrie. And frankly, that'll be a very difficult game for Aberdeen to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the manager's been responding to some of the criticism that's come the club's way and him personally.
We always search long and hard when we don't win games, but I also think that some of the criticism from our own really was beyond, and I think there has to be more trust in what we do. We're unbeaten this season. We've got good players here who are working hard to forge that strong bond with the supporters and also with each other.
I think he's having a wee pop at former players there.
I do. He's not unbeaten, of course, this season. He's unbeaten in the league this season, which is excellent, but it's the manner of the 3-0 defeat in Motherwell. I mean, I think that's what brings... There's expectations in Aberdeen now, rightly or wrongly. They were by far the second best team in Scotland last year. They contested 2 finals and they were second in the league. And one of the finals, the Scottish Cup final, they did really well, pushed Celtic right to the last minutes of the game. So, a big travelling support comes down to Motherwell for a game where Aberdeen fans would expect to win. There's no kidding about that. They're coming down to, and they get beat 3-0. There's going to be criticism on the back of that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't get involved in this petty argument over that seemed to have been going through the week about who celebrated the most after a win. Who cares? Jump up and down, you've won a game.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than some grounds at the dressing room, away dressing room, is right next door, and you can hear the banging of the walls, and you can hear the singing, and I mean, you celebrate when you win. It doesn't matter how you do it. But I think in the light of the cup defeat, they had every right to, because people were beginning to write them off. People were beginning to say, well, here we go again. And they obviously nipped it in the bud very, very quickly. But they have to go out tomorrow and continue to do that, because I think, as you said there, if I'm an Aberdeen supporter and I'm travelling all that distance and I'm spending all my hard-earned cash, I'm going to be disappointed, if there's a cup there that I think that we can win, and all of a sudden we're knocked out of it.
Yeah, this is what Derek McInnes had to say about the opposition tomorrow.
I think they had a fantastic away record last year, and I know early in the season they lost at home in the League Cup to Partick, but the response from that game was very strong through the league form. They've went on, and I think they go and get a point at Celtic Park, and they get a couple of victories, and that's why they're up where they are. They've always been a team that can go on good runs as well, a bit like ourselves at different stages of the season. But in simplistic terms, I think they've got very good players. A lot's made of their organisation, which is right. Sometimes a lot's made of their experience and all the rest of it, but ultimately they've got good footballers in the team.
Okay, that's Aberdeen against St Johnstone. Sometimes you get former players or former managers going back and wondering what reception they'll get. So it's Dundee against Hearts. Neil McCann had a good career and a good spell at Hearts as well.
Neil McCann's career was marked with good spells just about everywhere. When you look at his record, I think most clubs and most supporters of the clubs where he was at would look at him as I think Rangers fans revere him for what he did there. Remember, he came out of retirement to save Dundee from relegation as a player. I think he won a Scottish Cup with Hearts under Jim Jeffries. Yep. So yeah, he's generally, if you look at Neil's career as a pro, he was a good pro.
Yep, and of course he didn't hold back on going back to play on grass. He just absolutely battered that Kilmarnock pitch. He just didn't like it.
No, and I think in many ways, I think there's still a residual strong dislike to artificial turf amongst a lot of professional footballers. You see it in the way managers sometimes cosset players, don't put players in for the game. I mean, even top managers like Brendan Rodgers with Simonovic, not too keen on playing them, in plastic pitches. I still think, and I always say this, and I know it's a cliche, but if plastic pitches were perfect, the top teams would be playing on them. You know, Barcelona would be ripping up the grass and saying this is what we've got. Real Madrid would be doing it. Bayern Munich would be doing it. They're obviously inferior. And we know all the arguments for using them, the finance and all that. But there's obviously still an issue with them.
Yeah, and of course, Craig Levein, in the second spell as manager, has a lot of respect for his opposite number tomorrow because he swapped the comfy chair as a pundit to become the manager of Dundee.
Career path. He's done a lot of media stuff. He's good at that. And if he's as successful as a manager, then obviously we're in for a tough match. And I like to see people who are brave enough, to take that leap. It's easy sitting behind a desk in front of the TV cameras, pointing things out that people should have done. Yeah, but I think it's a lot braver to go into the dugout, be in the arena and actually test yourself. So all credit to Neil for being brave enough to do that.
Oh, come on, it's a doddle. I mean, honestly, Ruffy, he's built it up there.
Well,
it's tough, this job. It's tough.
Well, it's tough if you don't get it right, as we've been discussing in the early part of the show. The bottom line is win games. Win games, and the place is a happy place to be about Monday to Friday, and then you move on to the next Saturday. The fans are all right behind you, but Neil's no different to anybody else. You know, he knows that the expectations of the supporters, like all supporters, is they want to be up in that top six, challenging the big teams.
I didn't have any surprises really about Neil McCann going back. I was slightly surprised there was a wee hiatus when it looked as if he wouldn't, because I had a long conversation with him, well before this ever came out for interview purposes, and I just sensed from him he was a guy who was all about seizing the chance, a guy who was about taking things on, and I thought. I still think Dundee's an excellent job. I know there's issues there, I know there's troubles there, but I still think it's a very good club in Scotland with strong support and great potential. Yep,
and of course, Hearts have players who can cause a bit of problem for Dundee tomorrow at Dens Park, and they also have some talented players in the back line. One of them was speaking yesterday, John Suter, on the form of the Tynecastle club.
If we play well at Tynecastle, the momentum the fans build up is incredible, and I think the team feed off that as well. So if we go in with a run of 10 home games and perform well, and the fans get behind us, I think we could it could be very interesting.
Yeah, I think he's looking forward to those home games to build up a bit of momentum, Ruffy. Although these remaining games at Murrayfield that they're going to play, I think they're going to give Rangers something like 14,000 tickets for one of the games that they're playing there at Murrayfield, which is a huge amount for an away support. Yeah, I think when we saw the Aberdeen game, which we thought Aberdeen did bring 6,000 or 7,000 in, the stadium still wasn't full. It was a wee bit of a ghost that day, but they seem to put the supporters in an area that it looked okay, but I'm sure if you ask the players, they would prefer another 10,000, 20,000 on that. But I think that would be a good atmosphere with that kind of in there. But this boy Suter, I think we keep identifying players for the future, and I think he's unfortunate that he's picked up some bad injuries. But I think if he gets in regular, he could be a player that we should be looking for the Scotland team in the not distant future. Okay, high praise indeed from Ruffy. After the break, we're going to talk about one of his old sides, Partick Thistle, there at Fir Park to take on Motherwell, and one of our reporters will be there at that game tomorrow. Hopefully you can join us at 2 o'clock on STV2 when for 4 hours we'll keep you up to date with all the goals hitting at the back of the net. We'll also talk about Kilmarnock against Ross County, Owen Coyle's first game in charge, and we'll look at the Championship key games as well after this quick break. You happy with that, Hugh?
Back in the net.
Yep, absolutely. 1970 a point for you, nothing for you, Ruffy.
69, I went.
Yeah, 71 for me. I was trying to think of Jimi Hendrix. Couldn't nail it. Hopefully you're enjoying the quiz to see how you fare. We switch from talking about Aberdeen and Hearts to something at the bottom end of the table, which for Partick Thistle is a worry. They've got to try and win games. 1 win in 9 since August. Ruffy and Alan Archibald has already said, this period now coming up is where they have to start winning games.
Yeah, it's okay. Everybody's saying, they're playing well, and we like the way they're playing, but if you're not picking up points, you're where you are in the league, and obviously tomorrow, if there was not any more points picked up, there will be gaps starting to appear in the league, and that's when the pressure goes. But they've got a reasonable record against Motherwell. I don't think there is much between the two sides, so it'll be on the day whichever players take their chances that come along, and they should take something out of that game.
How big a blow is Christy Elliott being out?
Yeah, I think so. I think Alan was getting a settled back four in there. He did impress, when any time we saw him, big physical boy. And he will be missed because obviously they don't have a lot of defenders, but he'll have to shuffle the pack and see what he comes up with.
Yeah, Stephen Robinson says Motherwell are the Northern Ireland of the the Premiership. You can understand where he's coming from. I mean, apart from Moult, the rest of them are all just good grafters. I mean, there's a bit. I mean, Bowman, Cadden, quality in there, but they all seem to have that real team spirit. They've surprised a few of us.
Oh, aye, they certainly. I mean, he's taken a huge gamble there. He could come in and he's got rid of 16 or 17 and brought in 16 or 17. I mean, that's a real revolution. In terms of turnover, and he has. I mean, they lost the first game of the season to Rangers in a game that Rangers deserved to win. Yet Motherwell could have got a point out of it. But from then on in, they've been pretty consistent and on occasion spectacular. I think he's done a really great job there. I think what he's talking about in Northern Ireland is as well what he's putting in. I was interested to see some of the little things that he's putting in from like Michael O'Neill, like no mobile phones at training. I thought it was interesting the thing about players eat together but don't eat in a line the way he did the long table. They're going to eat in tables. Square tables, so they've got to talk to each other. Things like I always remember Michael O'Neill at the Euros. Every player that went into the room when they checked in for the Euros, there was actually family pictures. He'd sourced family pictures of individual players. Obviously asked their wives or partners. So when the players went and dumped their bags, there was pictures of their partners and their kids, etc. There.
Yeah.
I mean, that attention to detail is. It's quite amazing now that everything is looked at.
It's a good call you make there. It brings everybody together. I still think with our Christmas party, I prefer the big long line table, so that if you don't want to sit with somebody, if you're with them 6 days a week, you don't really want to sit next to them in the Christmas party.
That's all right, except that if you're at the end of the table with Ruffy, which I have been the last 3 years, and have gone on to helplines, which are already busy at that time of the year.
Just watching him eat.
just listening to him. I mean, it's astonishing stuff he comes out with.
Yeah.
You just sometimes can't eat with what he's coming out with.
Well, that's a worry as well, because if you don't eat it, he will. Just on that point, Ruffy, as far as this game's concerned, I think the one element of it we always talk about is goal scorers. Louis Moult has said, he's been very positive about Stephen Robinson and the effect he's had on them. He's scored 45 goals in the 2 years since he's been there, and he feels as if he owes Motherwell in this final year. I mean, I know a lot of Motherwell people say, well, if you owe us, sign another deal and then we can get money for you.
Yeah, but I think the big thing about the whole thing is the boy seems to be sensible enough to get the disappointment of not getting the move that he did want, and he's got his head in the right place to just, okay, it's not happening for me now, I've still got a wee while to go in the game, my move will come. But I think the whole basis of this thing is this sell-on clause to the other club that's due money, that might be in Motherwell's favour.
Yeah, okay. Who's winning that one for you, Hugh?
A draw.
Okay, Kelly against Ross County, Owen Coyle's first game in charge. Says he doesn't have a magic wand to turn it around immediately.
Well, he's got the same players that Jim McIntyre had, you know, and I always feel it's disappointing when a team's on a bad run, then all of a sudden a new manager comes in and they get a good result, you know, and it'd be a shame because Jim and Billy said, like, they weren't far away from turning the tide. Obviously, that fixture, you know, the fixtures that come round were beginning to suit them. They had the chance to pick up points like everybody else. You start playing against teams in your own area, but no, I think that'll be a tight one tomorrow.
Yeah, I hate to have a go at any paper that prints it, but if Ross County win against Kilmarnock, if a single player comes out Monday and says we let the manager down, Jim McIntyre, I tell you right now, get the paper, rip it up, and then play paper mache with your kids.
Yeah, I was like, I was surprised at the sacking because of the time, and I thought we'd have got this weekend. Because I thought Roy might have looked and said this weekend and see how they got on against Kilmarnock.
Yeah.
But the sacking itself, I mean, I know quite a few Ross County fans, including my brother, believe it or not, is a season ticket holder up there at the moment. And there was a real strong disaffection that was going on up there. I mean, people say, well, they won the cup with them and all that. But, in the club, they just felt there was no going forward. I thought we'd have got this week, and maybe if they'd got this week and turned it around, who knows?
Okay, join us tomorrow and we'll keep you up to date with everything happening in the Premiership. Championship, our game of the day, Des McKeown is back with us after cycling around big giant mountains that nobody else wanted to cycle around. He'll be there at Dunfermline against Dundee United. This is what the Dundee United boss, Ray McKinnon, had to make of the opposition that he's facing tomorrow.
I think it's important. I think you have to recognise their strengths, and every team's got strengths, and Dunfermline certainly have strengths. Pardon me, and we need to be very aware of that. But equally important to us is how we play. We want to set our stall out every game. We want to be really compact, and we want to make sure everybody knows their jobs. And but we want to play in the manner we want to play in. And I think the players are starting to get that consistency. We're starting to get consistent team selection the last couple of weeks, and I think that's helped. So, as much as we do respect Dunfermline, we'll certainly go there to play our own game. I think
interesting one there from Ray McKinnon. I think it's going to be a cracker. This is a team just slowly but surely getting together in United and Dunfermline. Just been superb this season.
Yeah, I think this is a test for the two sides because the two of them are now looking good. So whichever one comes out winners tomorrow will have a lot of confidence and maybe I don't think apart from Gordon, nobody fancied Dunfermline to win that league.
I did. I picked Dunfermline.
Gordon, did
you? Gordon's getting all the praise in this show,
Yeah.
I'm not happy.
I think Gordon mentioned there were dark horses. He thought they'd be the dark
I'd
horses.
be the same.
But you would think if Dunfermline go into this game tomorrow and they beat, say, Dundee United 2-0, then you've got to say, hey, you're in there with a shout here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd certainly mention it was dark horse because I think Dundee United at the beginning of this season should have been considered strong favourites, not just because of the players they had, because I really rate their manager. It's taken a wee bit of while for them to come together. I think he's had problems up front, people getting, injuries obviously, and people getting up to speed like Scott MacDonald, who would have missed a pre-season. I think it's a huge game tomorrow. I agree with Alan, test of both sides. Probably the game of the day.
Yeah, okay. We will keep you up to date with the Championship as well. Right, here's how it looks in the Premiership and the fixtures. And as far as all the games there, we will have reaction from Hamilton against Rangers. And also, we'll look ahead and give you all the team news and the goals that hit the back of the net from all those fixtures that we've just been discussing. In the Championship, here's how it looks. Not only Dunfermline, Dundee United, but Inverness, huge game for John Robertson against Queen of the South. Livingston, Dumbarton, Morton against Falkirk is another massive match in St Mirren against Brechin City. Here's League One. Airdrie, Queen's Park, Albion Rovers, Wraith Rovers, Arbroath, Alloa, Ayr United, East Fife and Forfar against Stranraer. And League 2, Annan take on Cowdenbeath, Montrose at home to Clyde, Peterhead welcome Berwick Rangers, Stenhousemuir against Edinburgh City and Stirling Albion at home to Elgin City. And the Premier League, the early kick-off is Huddersfield against Tottenham. Not exactly a card that would excite you on the Saturday, but there's one match on the Saturday night at 5:30 that I think is going to excite more than a few. It's Chelsea against Manchester Manchester City, and the news there is Man City will have to do without Aguero. He was away, I think, at a concert, and he was involved in a car crash.
Yeah, broken rib apparently, Peter. Big blow for them because although they've got fantastic resources, he's been such an important player. A player for whom you know, Guardiola seemed fairly cool would be the best way to describe it at first, but he's brought him in the team.
Who wins the game?
I think if anybody wins it, Chelsea will win it.
Yeah.
I fancy a draw, but I think I've been already. I'm swithering about Chelsea have proved me wrong this season. I think their performances against Atletico Madrid and Madrid the other night was just a performance of a real top class side.
Who wins it, Ruffy?
I'm going to go for Man City because that bomb scare Louise is at it again, and I just don't think I can trust him for 90 minutes.
Okay, and apologies to all the Luis family. Again, Ruffy didn't like Carlos Puyol, Champions League winner, and doesn't like David Luiz as well. Has David Luiz won a Champions League? I think he might. I'll check it. Yes, he has. Yeah, there you are. That's good enough for me. Join us tomorrow, 2 o'clock, STV2, when we'll be arguing and having every bit of information we can get to you on the football. Good night.